Hey, let me know if you guys could hear me. This is my second stream. Still trying to figure things out. Hey, let me know if you guys could hear me. This is my second stream. Still trying. You gotta keep the volume down on your iPad. Just learn that. Okay. And I'm back into my dragon. Hey, what's up, Jared? Good to see you. The legend, the man, the monsterverse man. Everything makes so much noise when you don't want it to. Hey, what's up? Dark Mist. Can't pronounce that word. Happy to see everybody. Alright, last week all I basically did was block in what I was calling hot dog meat. This is just a mesh to represent every area of the creature that is definitely going to need work. As long as everything is represented, then I can move on to like fleshing it out better. All right, like look at this foot. Just look at like just a big mush of nothingness. So basically everything here looks like that. But when you zoom out, it kind of looks like a dragon. But I already know, like after 2 weeks of not looking at it, when I opened it back up, I see so many things that I want to change. Like the wings, I think the wings are a little too small. I might have them folded down, maybe kind of like on the ground more. I don't know. Maybe I'll play with ideas like that. The horns sticking out of the head, I definitely want those thicker, fatter, more serious, damaging. Probably the legs are going to get beefed up. Probably the entire torso. The tail's going to get longer, but it can't keep going back straight out. It's going to have to curl around at some point so that this guy can rest on a shelf without it being a pain in the ass. So there's a lot of work that has to get done here. And I do have a lot of things separated out, but I'll probably be joining them back together again as I start getting into more fine details. And I definitely have something going on with this part that I don't care for. Okay, let's see what I can do. Go. I just wanted that piece to be joined with the bottom jaw because it's more bottom jaw than it is neck. So I separated it from the neck. I merged it down, and I'll get rid of this top part. And this I'll merge with the top. I'll throw a little bit more resolution on that tongue. Still on Dynamesh. So last stream I was really sick, and right after that stream I went to sleep for about a week. And I was laid out for a week, easy. I definitely didn't have COVID, but I had a flu or something. But I tested negative, and I was happy about that. And now I feel much better. Not that I get it, I think I still managed to get through that feeling all right, but right after I just collapsed. At least I know I'm not going to collapse this time. Now I got a lot of subtools, so I'm trying to organize them a little bit. I usually put them in descending order, so that the top tool will be like the top of the head. Then the teeth are right underneath that, and so on. The eyes go up, bottom jaw. I need those bottom teeth. Where the hell are they? Oh, there they go. All right. Let's see what I can do with these. So I just scaled them up and inflated. See that? It gets all Swiss cheesy every now and then. I'm used to this happening. So what I already have a close holes button. Usually there's a hole in the mesh somewhere, and this is Dynamesh, so it shouldn't do that. Usually Dynamesh will close the holes, but sometimes it doesn't. So I hit a close hole button, then Dynamesh, and it works. So if that ever happens to you, just hit close holes. If it doesn't work, then it's probably a bigger issue. And I guess when I get to that, I'll tell you what I do about it. Because a lot of these things, I just do it without thinking. And when I have to explain what I'm doing, I have to actually figure out what I'm doing. It's so strange. It's like muscle memory. And I guess that's a side effect of sculpting so often digitally that you just kind of like absorb the info and then forget you know it or forget how you know it. And it's a good thing and a bad thing. If you're trying to explain to somebody, it's not the best thing. Well, okay, I do like the horns thicker like that, but I still have to do a lot of work. Add some resolution to that chest area so that I can start putting a little bit more detail in. Sadik is asking if I have a favorite kaiju that I made. That's a good question. I feel like anything I'm currently working on is either going to be my favorite or my least favorite. So I was particularly proud of the that singular point Godzilla that I did recently. There's stuff I did a while ago that I still think holds up. It was like the Nemesis that I did, the Nemesis Kaiju from the novels by Jeremy Robinson. I did that one and I had it 3D printed in color at like 20 inches high, and I thought that looked beautiful. I mean, for as long ago as I did it, I think it holds up pretty nice. I'm sure I could do a better job at this point. Right now I'm just adding clay to build up a little bit of noise and to give it a little bit more like a fleshy appearance with some musculature and some skin texture. It's not precise and it's not accurate to anything in particular. I'm just throwing it in, but it does help give it a more look that is less hot doggy. Yeah, I can't give that the Nemesis STL out. It's not my I can't do it. It's not my IP. No, I can't sell that. Jeremy Robinson wouldn't appreciate that very much. I can't do that to him. Hobo Mango, it's good to see you here, man. How's everything going? Hobo Mango is an excellent ZBrusher. If you're not familiar, go check his work out. At this stage, I'm still pretty sloppy with my line. I sculpt the way I draw. I wasn't always a sculptor. I never sculpted before 2013. Never did any kind of sculpture. Not traditional. Nothing. I was more of an illustrator, and I trained in illustration since I was a kid. So, and my drawing style is very super fast, energetic, not very detailed, not very accurate, more just gestural, sloppy even. I had no patience. I had no patience to draw, but at the time I had no idea. And then when I started sculpting with ZBrush, I realized I'm more of a sculptor because I would get bored with the pose I was drawing, and I'd want to draw the turnaround view immediately. Within seconds of starting one drawing, I wanted to draw another view of it, and I was getting that was frustrating to me that I couldn't do that, or I would have to like start new drawings and not finish the other ones. And now with ZBrush, you're drawing. It's like drawing from every angle possible because I'm constantly spinning this thing and making sure that it looks good from every angle. So in essence, I'm getting all the views I want at the same time. Instead of doing 20 drawings, I'm doing one sculpt. And I never thought about it like that before, but as soon as I realized I enjoyed this for that reason, I knew that I was a sculptor and not an illustrator. So, and that's when I got motivated to sculpt every goddamn thing I liked, and movie monsters and all kinds of stuff. And that's how come I have so many monsters in my showcase, because every time I want to sculpt something, it's always monster, some kind of monster, some kind of ugly character that I love. That's how I stay motivated, because that's what I mean. I really should do more anatomy, human anatomy, and stuff like that, because that just makes you a better sculptor overall. But honestly, it's not terribly exciting to me to go and do that when I could be doing a monster instead. And then I figured for me, I wasn't going to stay motivated if I wasn't doing something that was motivating me. So, but it's not the best advice, because you should absolutely do the things that you don't want to do, like human anatomy and whatever it is that's out of your comfort zone. You should absolutely do it, because that's how you learn. That's when you learn the best and the most, and that stuff will really pay off in the long run. Stuck on a project. Have I ever been stuck on a project, and how did I solve it? Well, what exactly do you mean by stuck on something? I mean, if I didn't know how to, a lot of times I'll sit down to a project and no idea how I'm gonna finish it. This is a very general idea, but I mean, I've been stumped quite a few times. Sometimes, if something has a lot of hard surface, like say, like that Mecha Godzilla that Jared did, we didn't even know where to begin with that. That's so mind blowing that he pulled that off and as fast as he did. But he probably has a skilled knowledge of hard surface in ZBrush already, that's not one of my strong suits. So I don't think I would have turned that job down, but mine would have looked very different and not as hard surfacey, even though it would have looked more organic, even though it was probably a robot. Only because of my hard surface knowledge is limited, and see, that's another thing that I should practice more is hard surface. But yeah, I mean, if this was like a private commission or something, I probably would have turned that down. If it was for Hollywood, there's no way I'm turning it down. But yeah, I mean, something like that. But I did, when I did the Wampa, I was like really concerned that I wasn't going to pull off the fur realistically, and it turned out great. I thought the fur looked amazing. So I guess you just go in there and you give it your best and see. You practice on the spot. You try out things you never tried before, and that's kind of the fun of it. That's what's so great about ZBrush. There's 12 ways to do everything, and maybe one way is yielding the same results, but it's faster, or it's just easier for you, or you just take to it, or it's a completely different approach. But it looks the same in the long run, but for some reason it speaks to you, and it doesn't seem like math. It seems more organic and artistic to you. Like a lot of this stuff can be done with just tweaking palettes and typing numbers in, but I don't prefer to do it that way. So yeah, I guess if I got stumped, I solved it by just a lot of trial and error, a lot of making brushes. You know, if you're not getting the detail you want, you make a brush and see what happens. And I remember making brushes for hours before I even like applied it to the model. But you got to do that kind of stuff, and you learn a lot doing that. So that's it's all part of the magic. Yeah, hard surface is my kryptonite too. I can pull it off. I mean, I just don't think. I don't think I can do like a Michael Bay looking robot. But I can fake the funk when I have to. I do have like hard surface stuff in my book. I did like a Modoc. I did a Mecha King Ghidorah, which is probably not, like, if I were to redo that, I'm sure it would look a million times better. But these are models I did a long time ago, just trying to learn how to do stuff. And for what they turned out to look like after rendering, I was pretty damn happy that I was able to pull that off, because I no idea what I did on the spot. I just started working on it, and the next thing I know, it looked pretty good. I merged the hands back into the arms. They didn't need to be separated. I want that flow. Hello, Sergio. What's up? Let's see. When you're dealing with small items, small pieces, sometimes a quick way to do it is just make your focal shift -100, so your entire brush, there's no fall off, and then make your move brush topological, so it moves one thing, and you can if you're making small little nudges, you could just tap each one of these things and pull it out more if that's what you're looking, instead of selecting it with the poly group, which is annoying sometimes. and then using the gizmo that takes I mean, that's more accurate, but it's like it takes a lot longer to do. If the brush is big enough, it won't affect the shape too much. And in this early stage where everything is just a block in anyway, it's easier. Yeah. I guess you don't see it right on the screen. It actually says my ArtStation, artstation.com/DopePope, and my Twitter and Instagram is @DopePope with zeros for O's. And always look for that Cyclops avatar. That's fine. You're blind because it's right in front of your face. I do that all the time. But now that you know it's there, it'd be great if you followed. I should save because I haven't saved yet. I'm always amazed how fast time flies when I do these streams. Like 40 minutes just went by into 10 minutes to me. Yeah, I gotta work with glasses. Thanks, JJ. I gotta work with glasses now. This is what happens when you get old. I toggle between like a huge forced perspective and then orthographic, just because it's fun. I love hitting the button and watching everything just move. And then I also turn on the ambient occlusion because that's also fun. And let's see, it's just cool to see what it looks like. It's almost like it changes the material. Yeah, I'm definitely going to make the wings bigger. Lots more to do. Can you get good renders with Dynamesh? Yeah, absolutely. If your Dynamesh resolution is pretty high, you could definitely get good renders. But I usually try not to keep anything in Dynamesh if I'm going to go do a render, just to get that extra quality. But yeah, I've accidentally kept things in Dynamesh and had no idea it was in Dynamesh. That's how good it can be. It's all about the resolution, though. It can't be too low. Cause see what happens? I forgot to push my my focal point back. So right now it's at -100, and this is how, and this is what happens, and it's kind of interesting. It breaks the mesh, so you gotta pull it back. So yeah, the wings, I just want the wings bigger. I don't know if I want them to come out completely though. Because like, just like the tail shooting out the back, you won't be able to put it on the shelf the long way. If you have the wings going out too far, it'll take up too much of the shelf. I mean, it might look cool, but then you need a lot of shelf space for it. But if we bend them, or if we have them like kind of on the ground where it's lifting his weight, that could be kind of cool. I kind of really enjoy when the dragon's got his wings on the ground. He's using them to walk. I love that. It was one of the coolest things I saw King Ghidorah do in the King of the Monsters movie. I just thought that was really cool. I never really thought of Ghidorah that way before, because he never did that in the Japanese films. So it was, but when he was using his wings to like block debris and block beams, Godzilla's beams and shit, I thought that was so badass. Advice for people going into creature design: you gotta love it. You absolutely gotta love it, and you gotta practice nonstop. I would say that's a given right off the bat. But also take as much inspiration from nature as you can, and watch nature shows, and go to the zoos, and really pay attention to like the anatomy of creatures and insects and just whatever's alive on this planet, plants. Absorb those textures, absorb those anatomical features, and all the weird shit. I guarantee you nature did it 10 times better than anything you could imagine in your head. So, and you know, steal shit from nature and use it. That's what the best of the best do all the time. Yeah, so I would just practice nonstop and just utilize that reference from nature as much as you possibly can. Okay, what do I want to do? I'm trying to think about how I'm going to isolate these wings. See, this is what I love about ZBrush. I'm like concepting on the fly. It's just, you know, I could just take a part of the body and start moving it around to see what it looks like, and you can't do that when you're drawing. You can't even do that with, like, I guess you can do it with traditional sculpture, but not as quickly or easily, without damage. The traditional sculpting has 0 undos. That's a problem for me. I broke the mesh back there with that interesting shark fin, Swiss cheese looking shark fin. That's kind of cool. You know, that's because I mushed these two shapes together while I was moving them, and that's the result I got. And it's like a happy accident. Now I'm thinking that maybe something should be back there. I like the silhouette of it. I don't know if I want it to be one big shark fin. It's a little strange, but I do like the way it looks, though. Something's got to be back there. Okay. Well, I'll put them back to where they were for now. Yeah, if anybody's watching, what is it, Midnight Mass on Netflix, let me know what you think of it, because I'm like 4 episodes in, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a strange strange story so far. But they're doing lots of things right. And I don't know, I can't say that it's terrifyingly scary, but it's got its moments, and it's very interesting to me. It's as slow as it is. I'm surprised that I'm still interested in it, because I can easily get turned off when things are too slow. But I'm enjoying the hell out of it. You finished it 30 minutes ago. All right, don't spoil it, because I'm trying to watch an episode a night so I could savor it and make it last. Because I get starved for entertainment real fast lately, especially when you're sick in bed for a week and there's nothing to watch. But there's some interesting special effects in that. Yeah, so I was digging the design of that demon. So subtle, but it's hugely effective. So I do like to just add this noise I create with the brush just by doing strokes. The intensity is a little high here, but just adding some strokes and giving it that like fleshy noise. And it's sloppy and it's quick and it's meaningless, but it does help with all sorts of things down the line. It gives you like all these little micro shapes to play with later on, and when you add scales, you can follow the forms. I'm trying to go like taking educated guesses here on like which way it would flow on this thing. I'm not just going like crazy and drawing random strokes. But like at a distance, when you throw down some light from a distance, it looks like musculature, it looks like skin texture, it looks like scales, and then you haven't done any of the work yet, but it's still like fooling the eye that it's in there. It's starting to come alive, and I do enjoy that as well. It does help. It's not for everyone. It's just the workflow that I've come up with. To get instant results and a starting point for the laying in the details. I don't know how intricate I'm going to get with the scaling. I'm definitely going to put in lots of like scales and scutes and spikes and fine detail. Probably do some of that by hand. Probably do some of that with VDMs. Probably do a lot of it with alphas, and just have fun with it. But I'm not sitting here drawing every scale by hand and making sure it's perfect. It's not that kind of project for me, and it usually isn't. Like if I have to do perfect scales for something, that'll drive me crazy, because that's the kind of thing that drives me crazy. And it can be done, but I don't who's got 400 hours to work on every scale. Now, unless you practice that constantly, then that practice will speed up that workflow. But usually I have to get things done quicker than that. I'm already looking forward to posing this thing, but I want to sculpt it in symmetry for as long as possible. But this is that's the kind of artist I am. I'm already bored with this symmetry that I want to break it, and I'm nowhere near ready to break it, but I'm getting the urge to break it already, and that's just how I was when I was drawing. I was like needed to change the pose within seconds of starting a drawing. I needed to change it, so it's just I'm impatient and never satisfied. So I'm sure a lot of artists out there can relate to that. If not, then I'm just a weird one. Plus, I developed this workflow of just like throwing down lines and throwing down strokes just to, in the beginning, to like get myself out of being scared of and being timid, to be confident with your ideas and be confident with your application of clay and whatnot. And like even when I was drawing, like I would draw hard and hard lines, fast lines, and even if it didn't go in the right place, and then you just draw it again in the right place, and with this you could hit undo and it'll go away. But when I first started, I was scared to put detail in. I thought within minutes of putting something down, I thought like, all right, it's got to stay that way. It's good. It's good. It looks good, and it's got to stay that way. And you can't. That's not how it works. Like you can't be falling in love with the first couple of strokes you make and think it's going to stay that way, because it's just not. And that takes practice. You have to put information in that is not going to remain, just so that you can progress. And as soon as you realize that that's necessary, you will evolve as a sculptor, and you'll evolve as an artist. And it's a struggle, like in the beginning, for me to get past that very little bit amount of detail, because it's like, that looks perfect. It doesn't need it anymore. Meanwhile, it looks ridiculous. But you don't know it does, because you don't know what it can do. You don't know how much more you could put in. So I'm not saying just overload shit with texture for the sake of it, but I am saying get past your timid nature in the beginning, or falling in love with what you have on the page, because there's always something that can be done to make it better. It's a limitation. It's not. It's nothing more than a limitation. So. I'm not sure why everyone hates Blender. I've actually never heard anyone hate Blender. If anything, lately I've been hearing nothing but love for Blender, and Blender's gotten so good at what it does, and it's still free, and it's so packed with like awesome features that I don't know anyone who hates it. Now, I guess people say it might be hard to get the grasp of, but hey, we're using ZBrush. I can't imagine anything more strange and difficult right out of the gate than ZBrush. So if you could handle ZBrush, I'm sure you can handle Blender. Blender's doing some beautiful looking stuff, so I don't know if it's ever going to be mainstream or used professionally, but I mean, if you get results from it that make your art look better, by all means, use it, learn it. If it works for you, I don't know why you wouldn't use it. But I've never actually used it. I've just seen what it can do, and I've always been impressed. Especially lately, I'm seeing some renders out of there that you don't even know are renders. You think they're photographs. So. I mean, to each their own, you know. If Blender is giving people grief and they want to hate on it, that's their prerogative. I know lots of people talk shit about ZBrush and they hate it because it's just hard for them to grasp, and I can relate to that. I can get it, but you know, I don't feel that way, obviously. Finish. Tongue? Is this a tongue? Okay. MS Paint. I don't think I've ever used MS Paint. I know it's legendary. The first time I ever used anything on a computer in terms of art was on an Apple IIe, and it was like that first, I mean, it was like the dawn of Photoshop or something. Or was there an art program that they had? And it had like 5 buttons. And you just, I remember drawing like a robot, like a Japanese robot on it. In a store that sold Apple products, and they would let me sit there and draw on it. And they said they sold a lot of computers because of what I was drawing on, and it was garbage. But at the time, it was amazing because no one's ever seen someone draw on using a mouse, and it was fun for me. I got to sit there and get paid to draw on a computer. But that was, wow, what was that? 1986, 87? So now that there's like more flesh greeble in here, like form, there's more form. Now this is when I start snooping around from all angles and seeing like where things just don't look right, which is like basically all over the damn place. I do not do animation or rigging. Maybe one day, but right now I don't know anything about that stuff. But I definitely want to see my models get animated one day. Some of them. Definitely want to see that happen. My goal, bucket list goal in life is to see a monster I create on the big screen. That will be a beautiful thing for me. And my name and a credit somewhere in the film. I need that to happen for me. And then I can say to myself, all right, I did what I set out to do. Every now and then I like to throw on this shader just to see it's funny. It just it takes it right out of like a more finished look and brings it back into a sketch look, and I love it. Thank you, Mecha Biolante. That's nice to know. Thank everybody here. Thank you for watching and participating, because otherwise I'd just be doing this to nobody. I hope you're getting something out of it. I definitely like to move light around on these things, just to see what's going on with the forms. And that's also like, I get caught up in changing the materials too, for the same reason, just to see, like, you can see lots of things pop out when you change materials that you're not seeing. If you stare at something for too long, you're doing yourself a disservice. So it's rather than not like stop working and walk away, I'll just change the light or change the material, and you could see like a lot of imperfections or some happy accidents. Plus, it's just fun. What? Is that new? Is that a new thing? I can't use the snake hook unless I'm using Sculptures Pro. That never used to do that. Which game has the best models? I need more to that question. What do you mean? Which game? Like just any game has the best models? I can't even answer that question. Yeah, Dark Souls, beautiful character design, and I just can't play the games because I don't have the patience to play it. It's just too harsh for me. I have no problem admitting that, and it's a real shame because I love From Software. Back in the day, they made one of my favorite video games of all time called Kingsfield on PlayStation 1. And some sequels came out for PlayStation 2, and I love those games so much. If they remake them, I'll be thrilled. But these new Demon Souls, Dark Soul games, they're just. I remember buying the first one, and I couldn't beat the first 5 minutes of the first level, and I played for hours, and I got really mad, and rage quit. And returned the game and got my money back. And I was like, who's got the patience for that? I know I don't. But people love that game, and they love it because it's super hard. But that's not. I need games to have easy mode. If I'm gonna have a brain aneurysm. Yeah, I'm a retard. I mean, how do you go about making 3D anime like that? That's a tremendous conversation. But my answer is the same though. Like you have to. I don't think there's a software that maybe you start with a base mesh that's already like anime style. But yeah, I mean, they very well that someone had to come up with that base mesh and someone had to come up with that style. So it's got it, a lot of that has to do with just knowing what you're doing and practice nonstop. I'm waiting to get Far Cry 6 because I love the Far Cry series, um, which I think is coming out next week. I'm excited about that. But the game I'm most excited for is Dying Light 2, which just got pushed back to next year, but that was supposed to come out in December. And man, Dying Light 1 is so much fun. I love that game so much. I must have played it like 12 times already. I still play it when I get bored. I just throw it on. It's so it's so much fun to just throw it on and kill zombies and just relieve stress by destroying these zombies with horrific ways. I don't know if anybody's played Dying Light or the Dead Island. Dead Island series is also one of my favorites. I just love it. I really enjoy that. Let's see. Now I'm starting to think the head's too big. So what I can do about that, just to see if I'm correct. No, it's not going to work. I played a couple of Wolfensteins, but one I remember playing one and there was some kind of glitch in it that made it unplayable, so I had to stop playing it. But I don't remember which one it was. It was a few years back. I was enjoying it. It had like metal wolves in it or something. Yeah, I think I like it better this way. What's a piano? Sometimes I just do this. With the eyes, just to give it just a tiny bit of life as I'm sculpting, because sometimes you get stuck. You get, like I was mentioning before, you just get like tired of it looking the same after a while, and all the effort you're putting into making it look good is not paying off fast enough. So when you make a subtle little shift to the eyes, it can rejuvenate that interest. You just do some simple little thing like this. It gets you excited about what it's going to look like later. It could also backfire, and it could look like shit, and then you're like, oh no, the whole model's gonna suck. And let me tell you what a roller coaster ride it is making these things, because there's so many times that you think it's coming out great, and then after 10 more minutes of sculpting, you're like, shit, it's starting to look really bad. And then your mind shifts and goes from, wow, this looks great, to, oh, this is gonna be terrible, and you just catastrophize the whole thing. And I must do this 20 times a model, where I think it looks great, then something happens and it starts to look terrible, and then something happens and it looks great again, and repeat. And it's a roller coaster ride, and it's like, it's not just the sculpting you're going through, but you're going through emotions, and people don't actually acknowledge that all that much. But a good piece of art makes you feel a million different ways throughout its process. And I for one have had models that almost brought me to tears, thinking it was going to be bad. And especially if it's for a client, you're like, oh god, I don't know how am I going to pull this off. And then I tell you, man, this like a weird magic with ZBrush, where like a couple of moves later, everything just pulls together. Something just shifts into place, and it starts to look good again, and you get so excited. So a lot of that, there's a lot of that going on at any given time. So that's why, you know, it looks like you got to bounce around. You can't stay in one spot for too long. All these things help pull the model together so that you can avoid getting stuck thinking it's going to look like shit. Comics legend. That's something you experience as an artist. I mean, I bet we all do in our own ways. I mean, I can't be the only one who does that. There's no way. Let's see. I don't even know what color I want this. Not that I'm responsible for painting it, but if I want to do a cool render, then I have to paint it. And usually around here is where I start thinking about colors, even though I'm nowhere near the final. But knowing the colors at this point can help the sculpting process in so many different ways. I can't even explain it to you how. You just kind of have to. You could totally get to the end of this and still not have any idea what color it's going to be. That's fine too. But sometimes it's fun to just have it completely finished and then go to town with the colors and see what you like. But I'm already thinking about it. I was thinking about a brightly lit, kind of avatar-y looking thing. I didn't want to go just one solid dark color. As much as that is fun to render, because I love rendering the dark flesh tones, the creatures with darker skin tones always come out looking cooler. The lighter ones give me a lot of grief trying to render them. Sorry to hear that, Spear Chuck Ngawa. Yeah, exactly. You might be prematurely that you decided that it was coming out like shit and never went back to it. You can't. That's why you have to beat that down. You have to. Don't listen to that voice in your head that says it sucks. And if it's a client job and it's telling your voice is telling you it sucks, you can't just not do it. You have to finish, and you have to at least be confident in yourself that you're gonna pull it together at the last minute. And you got, even if you don't know how, you got to trust in yourself that you can do it. And ZBrush is gonna help you just by being ZBrush. But that's what I'm saying. If you start screwing around with color, even if it's way early, it can take you. It can, if you're already feeling negative about a model, but you start screwing around with color in it, that could be all it takes for you to flip and be like, oh wait, the color can really help this. Be positive about it. And yeah, like I said, it's a roller coaster ride. It's back and forth. Ain't no color gonna make a bad model look better, but it'll make a good model exponentially better. That's for sure. But it's not gonna hide bad anatomy. It's not gonna hide just a shitty sculpt. But man, if you have a decent sculpt or a good sculpt, but it's just flat, color will bring that to life like nothing else. So. I mean, there's a lot of painters of miniatures that I follow on Instagram. Those guys blow my mind. They make these things look like three-dimensional cartoon characters that you could keep on your desk. I love watching the videos of them painting. It's amazing to me. I don't have the patience for that, but I would like to think that if I sculpted a miniature, that if one of those guys painted it, it would look phenomenal. But if the wrong guy paints it, or someone who doesn't get in there with that much detail and love, then it might still look like a flat model, a shitty model. And that's not cool. Paint jobs really, really help. I haven't touched the feet at all. Let's do a little something to these hot dogs. This is something I do at the bottom of the foot. I just mask out the bottom, blur it a little bit. It's too much of a blur. That might be good. So it's just like the bottom plus like the flesh going halfway up the foot, and then I inflate it just a touch. And that gives it like kind of like that flattened effect that it's got a lot of weight under it. It begins that effect. Then you got to do a little finessing afterwards. Yeah, exactly. I'm still, it's only what, 4 hours into this model so far. And, you know, there's a lot of information now, but it's still very, like, the details are nowhere near ready to be sculpted into it. This is just still working out the forms, and I'm still working on proportions, and I'm still working on like wing placement. And so I'm not going to begin getting those fine details in with the scutes and the scales, not for a while. Highly, no. This is just a standard symmetrical pose right now. It's definitely going to get posed later. I'll probably have to break some of the model after and resculpt certain areas because it's not. It certainly won't be a symmetrical pose. But to save time, I need to sculpt it in symmetry for as long as I can. This piece is actually going to be made into a toy with no articulation. It's more of like a statue or a like a like a figure, a collectible with no, like a my cat or something, a statue. But it won't be symmetrical. And then, but in terms of rendering it though, just for fun afterwards, I don't. It's not required of me to render it, but I usually do just because that's the fun of it. I will take it probably into Keyshot, throw some textures and materials on it, and then do a proper render in there as well. Yeah, I don't have to. I mean, I'm still gonna Z remesh this whole thing. It's just part of the workflow that I do. It's just I gotta get the subdivisions up pretty high so that I can add the texture that I want to. But yeah, it doesn't have to be game. It doesn't have to be retopoed for like animation pipeline. That would probably be a nightmare, and anyone doing that would probably hate how I work. I'm sure of that. So like this is the problem of being a, I don't want to say I'm self-taught, because I've learned from tutorials where people are teaching in the tutorial. So it's not like I just decided that's how I'm going to do it. But you know, after watching that and then creating my own workflow that works for me for what I do, these are the ruts you get yourself into. Like I can do it, I can do what I can do, but if they need me to do it a special way, or the way they do it professionally in the Hollywood pipeline and stuff like that, then it gets me into a weird situation where I might not be able to deliver if they just expect me to know that. And that's, you know, that's a problem for me. But if what they want from me is just a final that looks amazing, then I can deliver, and that's great. If they want me to know how it's done in the production room, then I have a problem. I Z-remesh this whole thing usually when I get to like, it's usually when I know I'm not going to be screwing around anymore with proportions. I'm not going to be doing any major sweeping changes. I do it usually to get my tertiary textures and the sculptural details in, the final stuff that looks really crisp and good at the end. So I probably won't do it for a while, but it happens. It happens before I pose. That's for sure. So, and it happens before I add the final textures. So it'll be like kind of late midpoint. And I don't use Substance Painter. No, I actually have it. I bought it because I wanted to use it, and I was never able to figure it out. I hear awesome things about it, and I hear it's not that hard to use. It's just that a lot of the stuff I work on doesn't require UVs or maps, because I'm doing a lot of 3D printing and toy stuff, and none of that really requires this stuff, so I never got around to integrating it. It would come in handy for just really cool looking renders where I could start throwing textures on stuff, and at some point I do want to learn it. There's so many things I want to learn. I want to learn like Octane and Houdini and Arnold and just shit, even Blender. I want to get into all of that stuff and see what I can do with that. just throwing in some hooks, some claws where I think I might want something. They might not stay. They might get smoothed out and just deleted or replaced with like a better concept. But right now I just want I'm putting it in there to see what it looks like, to see if I want something in those spots. Usually if that's where the part of the wing that's going to be touching the ground to help it walk, then something's got to be there, some kind of maybe a digit, maybe a whole hand. That's all part of what I want it to look like. But just throwing a little something in there to indicate to myself that I gotta work on that area. I'll probably take those hooks out and put in more of like something that could hold the weight of that thing. More like a paw, or just like a couple of digits with like pads at the bottom. See, I just got about 10 more minutes. Pretty cool. Now I'm just gonna drop in like just some indication of scales where they might go, what they might look like. Here's where I start messing around with materials. I think I made enough changes from last week, 2 weeks ago, where I could start. Like there's now I have an idea what the final might start to look like, and going through these materials helps me come up with ideas. Nowhere near finished yet, but these are this is just part of the ritual I go through with because I know once I start laying in the really fine details, it's going to start to look really sick, and then it's all about light and shadow. But plus, I also just love going through. When you throw a weird texture on this thing, and something that you wouldn't expect it to be, like a glass or some kind of weird shiny metal, you're like, holy shit, this thing is, it just took on a whole new life that you weren't thinking in that direction. But like, what if this dragon was made out of bubble gum? Looks pretty cool. This is how I used to do a lot of my renders back in the day when I was using ZBrush to do final renders. I would go through every material I could and see what happens, and then save out that material pass. Sometimes I would grab them all and put them into Photoshop, and I'll have like 50 material passes, whether I intended to use them or not. I just liked the way they looked. And maybe there would be an area that I need, but the rest of it was garbage. And then you just start throwing layer masks on everything and just spraying in what you need and what you think it look good. And you start screwing around with modes, and boom, like after it could be 20 minutes or 6 hours later, you could have an insane looking render because ZBrush materials hooked you up. And it was fun. That was all part of the process. So like sculpting it was one thing, and then trying to figure out what it's going to look like in a render was another thing. And a lot of it was serendipitous, fun, trying to figure it out. And you learn as you go. You just like, look at that. What the hell is that? That's awesome. it's useless, but it's great. I definitely don't want my dragon to look like that, but it's cool to see it immediately look like that. But look at that thing. If this thing was molten lava on the inside, now I know what it might look like. It's pretty cool looking. Nice. I really like this material. It just looks cool. The invisible matte cap. It's pretty cool. Nice. It's pretty cool looking too. fun stuff. So that's the progress we made on the thing. It's just baby steps. Every step is a baby step, and you just keep going until you get what you like. I definitely like the progress I've made on the shape of the head, the horns, the wings, absolutely. The arms need some work for sure. The legs, the tail. The chest area needs a whole overhaul, but I'm getting there. I mean, it's just the This is the process, and it's cool to compare it to an earlier version to see how much work you've actually gotten done in the 2 hours. And sometimes you could sculpt for 2 hours nonstop and think you didn't do a thing, but if you don't compare it to your earlier version, I love saving out. When I know I made a bunch of changes, I'll save out a new version. So I'll have, like, when I'm done with something, I could have 20 versions of it, and I can go back and see. And it's good to also to get into that habit in case, like, especially for a client work, in case something corrupts, you could always at least go back to a certain level without it being too much work. Mageco, yes, human anatomy definitely helps. Animal anatomy, I would. If that's imperative, I would always have images of anatomical reference for, like, lions, reptiles, birds, all of that will help, especially with a dragon, bird, and reptiles. Definitely start like a base, like start a folder and have categories of that kind of stuff, and of images that you'll always open when you want to work on a creature. That's absolutely important. And then being able to like then take something that's real and just morph it into something that's fantastical or imaginary. That's where your creativity lies. But if you want it to look as real as possible, even as something that doesn't exist, your best bet is natural reference, something from nature, something that does exist, and then just get creative with it. And practice doing that, because that takes practice too. I mean, that you're not just going to be automatically great at that. A Smaug. Smaug is an amazing dragon, but probably more of like the Godzilla creatures was more of an influence on me in the beginning. As much as I love Smaug, I wouldn't say he was an influence on too much. I was probably more influenced by what was going on in the Japanese giant monster world, and those are the monsters that I wanted to sculpt to learn ZBrush. But I would use, try to bring more realism to them, and that was my challenge I was giving myself. Okay, guys, it's 7 o'clock. I gotta stop streaming now. Thanks for watching. In 2 weeks, this time slot, we'll be back, and we'll keep at it. We'll get some more details in this dragon. Thanks for being here, and come watch next in 2 weeks.